for you regarding our project. And this is the project of the Rotary Club about the invisible history of the African American community in Cape Charles. And I think that the work that you have done in the Rosenwald School project very much would echo the kind of work that we are trying to do. And there's no reason for us to reinvent the wheel when you have gone through all of the steps that we plan to get involved also. And so we really are here to pick your brains out, in terms of how to go about uncovering the invisible history of African Americans and bringing it into the public view for everyone to understand how the Black community have contributed to the development of Cape Charles. So,
well, let me say first, thank you for having me, and I so appreciate the fact that the Rotary is taking this on. I'm excited about it, and I've been able to share with the few board members with the Rosenwald School initiative, and they too are excited about it. So I hope I can help in some way. So
right now, our project is in the very early stage. I'm ready for questions.
I do hope I can help in some way.
Well, okay. Right now, our project is in the very early stage of its development, and we are really just preparing to involve the community. And I'd like for you to speak a little bit about how you got involved with the Rosenwald School in the first place, because that's very interesting.
Well, I'm from the Eastern Shore. I'm actually from Fairview. I was born there in my grandmother's house, and I went to
you lost your sound.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know where I left off, where you couldn't hear me, but pretty much I just said that I was born and raised in Fairview. I graduated from Northampton High School in Eastville, and it had to be one time when I was coming back home to visit my grandmother. We went on Old Cape Charles Road, and I asked her what that building was. By profession, I am an urban planner. I serve as director of planning for a city outside of Richmond. And so one of my, I guess, hobbies is historic preservation. At least I like history and like looking at older houses and antiques and things. So when I saw the building, I asked my grandmother what the building was for. The amazing thing, and I think looking at the Invisible History book, I have started reading it, and thank you so much for doing putting that book together. But the amazing thing is, like I said, I'm from the Eastern Shore, and I did not know what that building was. And it wasn't until my grandmother told me, and I guess that was like 2008 or 2009. She told me what the building was. And I said, well, why is it just sitting there? And she did not live in the town of Cape Charles. So she never went to the school. Because I'm from home, I looked up certain people that I thought may have gone to the school. I had cousins that attended, and also a dear teacher that taught me, Diane Davis, who I'm sure you all know. She taught me at the high school. And so I called her, and that's when she told me that she attended there. And in November of 2009, my husband and I put together a meeting. We invited some alumni who we got names from Miss Davis, and we also invited the town council members. And at the time, Tom Bonadeno was the planner. And in the morning, we had a session with the alumni, and then we had lunch, and then we invited the town people to come in and to talk with the alumni. At the time, the town had a plan where they were going to move their town hall offices to that area and make the Rosenwald School kind of like the center of a new development that would be kind of like town hall. That never happened, but we were going off of that idea and asking about the school. We were not able to secure the school at the time. The owner wanted like $1 million for it. I think she then went down to $799. Then she went down to $699. And of course, that was out of our league. And also we knew what the building assessed for. So what we decided to do was to apply to the state to get the historic marker placed. And then we also wanted to preserve the history. And we had the Over the Hump project that we did with Virginia Humanities, who gave us a grant, and Dr. Linda Schultz, who lives on Tazewell Avenue, headed that project for us, and she did the oral history interviews along with students from ODU. So that's how we got started. I don't know if that gives you enough information, and I could, if you have any questions about it, I can go on.
Yeah, it certainly gives us the scope of the work that we are trying to do is going to be huge, considering that you have started this project in 2009, more or less. And of course, you know, it started just as a single interest on your part, and you involved a lot of the people in it and got them together. And so we are basically at the setting off stage of our project. And we are planning to begin to do the interviews in order to document the oral history, since many of the residents of the Cape Charles at its founding, the descendants are getting on in age and may not be around anymore for a long time, and that oral history will be lost forever. And so we want to capture that oral history. And so what we're going to ask you about today is how you went about setting up the interviews, because there are many technical considerations that we have been going through. And we had set up a committee here, which Diane Dawson I asked to chair, to set up the interview process so that we can have a template, so to speak, in terms of how to obtain the oral history. And so I'd like to open the floor then if the members have any question for Tevya about the interview process.
Well, I'd like
to
comment. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's not about the interview part, but I'm also from the Eastern Shore. I grew up in the Eastern Shore, went to Northampton County High School. You went to Northampton High School. And I suspected we're tied together somewhere as a relative down the road. So I look forward to getting to know you better and your family, obviously. But the work that you've done is tremendous. It certainly is a great, I think, template that we can benefit from with what we're doing with Medi and the other people in this group here. And I'm really looking forward to working with you and working with the information that you're going to be able to help us to sort through in a better way as far as getting the information, interviews, and all those types of things. Go ahead, Diane. I just wanted to chime in there for a second.
Oh, that's okay. I was going to say I'm interested in hearing how you all approached your interviews, how you decided what kinds of questions you were going to ask, and just things like that. We're interested in getting ideas from as many people as possible on how that was done.
Okay.
And things you learned, work and don't work.
I can tell you that I helped with that project, and Linda and I wrote the grant. Like I said, we got a grant from the Virginia Humanities. Linda spearheaded that. So more technical questions, I would also lean on her, but I can tell you what I do know. We at the time put an ad in the paper. We also had a list of alumni. We have been having
Oh, I'm
alumni.
sorry. I'm
We've been
sorry. This
having
is different,
meetings,
Thomas.
and we had
No,
also
I'm in two different meetings here.
had
I'll give you a call back.
annual meetings. And at those annual meetings, we took down, of course, who was there. We asked them their interest in the Rosenwald School, and specifically asked if they were alumni or not, or if they knew of an alumni, and if they did, to provide them their contact information. So we had a growing list of alumni, and we sent them emails and we sent them letters and we called them. It took a lot. It took a lot of prodding to get people to be willing to interview. And I'm not sure, and that's something that I hope we can better understand. But one of the things that struck me with the Invisible history book that was just written is that I didn't know any of those things. I came downtown, and I call it downtown, but I came downtown every weekend as a little girl. I can remember going in the Peoples, and I'm in my early 40s, so I didn't know, of course, the things that the book was talking about. But when I asked my grandmother how it was during segregation, she said she was fine. And she still says that. Now, she did not live in Cape Charles, so I don't know if she told me that to not, so she didn't want to let me know what really went on. So when I saw what and I call him Deacon Godwin because he goes to the same church that I grew up in. So for me, he's Deacon Godwin. So when Deacon Godwin, when I saw the book, I was shocked. And I was shocked, one, that I never heard it. And I was shocked, two, that I was never told about it. And so that gets me back to the oral history. It was very difficult to get the people to want to speak and to want to sit down. We worked on getting interviews for months. We even had a hard time getting our board to interview. And if you look at the interview questions, those were derived from the students at ODU. We worked with we worked with a professor, and I don't know if it was a professor of English or a professor of history, and we can go back and look at that, but it was a professor at ODU whose students, this was their major. So what they were doing with the oral history was something that they were going to school to do. And this was a project that they worked on. So they drove over and they came over and they did the interviews for us. We had to use our own equipment, and that was something that I can tell you, if we had to do it over, I think we would have hired a professional. Dr. Schultz, and I'm sure most of you probably know Linda, but she did that all by herself, and it was a lot of work. We purchased our own camera, video camera to get that done. The students did type up the narrative, they typed up everything, they dictated, so we did get that from them. It took a while to get that back, as students, it took a long time to get the interview, so therefore different semesters rolled through, so the project went on longer than it was supposed to. And then at the end, we actually ended up going across the bay to get some of the interviews. It was one family, they had, I think it was 3 or 4 girls, and then the mother, and we wanted to make sure that we got them. And so they couldn't travel, so we went to them. And I think in total, out of probably a list of 50 alumni that we had 18 that agreed. And if you look at the questions, even the questions about segregation and how they felt about that, it was difficult to get them to speak on that subject for a long time. They spoke more about what they were proud of, what they were happy about, the benefits of the school, how their community came together. But when it came to their thoughts on segregation, they did not linger long on that subject. And it's something that Linda and I realized, but we never prodded to ask why. And that to me has a correlation between the fact that growing up on the shore, I didn't hear these stories, and that building sat there for so long without something being done. To me, there's a relationship to that, and I'm not sure what that is.
So that really brings us to how we need to structure our interview, that because we are approaching a very sensitive subject, it seems that people do not readily want to talk about. And so we really do need to interview in a way that do not attack their sensibility about these things. And so did you have a legal agreement about the interview to begin with that could be very intimidating?
Well, we did do waiver forms. We did do waiver forms. It was just one page, very simple. And I could forward that to you all. I can't remember what it says, but it was very, to me, it wasn't intimidating at all. But of course I wasn't the person being interviewed, but it didn't seem to be intimidating. But it was just a one pager, and they had to sign, and they checked off what they agreed to. I can tell you that some people, after seeing someone else being interviewed and talking to others that were interviewed, ones that had said no, they then decided yes. So that was a good thing.
Well, of course, we plan to the people that you have already interviewed for the Rosenwald School. We can start with them because they all went to Cape Charles and would have some information. And so we probably don't need to spend as much time identifying the people that we'd like to interview for this different oral histories. And then Tom Godwin, of course, is a repository of information about all the other people here. So we have that available to us, but we do need to come up with a template of the interview, and your experience and insight would be very useful in going about it.
Mehdi, Tom is trying to get on. He's been trying to get on for the last 10 minutes. So let me go back and call him again.
Yeah. All right.
I have a follow-up question.
Reggie, I just let him in. I didn't know Tom was joining us.
Okay.
Now, you may have said this and I missed it, or didn't understand that's what you were saying. After you got the interviews, did you all edit them in any way? And if you did, I'm curious about how that process went.
I didn't speak on that, Mrs. Dawson. We did not edit the interviews. Okay. And some people actually didn't like that because even the transcripts were not edited. And when you talk, you just talk, and sometimes you're not, you're just having a conversation, and that's how the interviews were set up. So some people had an issue with that because they may have used an improper word, grammatically speaking. But the interviews were not edited. We also did a video, and I don't know if you guys have seen the booklet, but one of the things that we had to do with the grant was to do a booklet. And so that booklet has some of the interviews in there. And we also have a video that one of our members put together of snippets of some of the interviews, but they were not edited.
Okay, so my question on editing was not so much editing how they said something, but more editing out hiccups. But you answered it, so I understand, what you were saying. Yes. Tom, you have shared your screen when you really didn't need to. So if you will click the red stop share button, that'll put, right. Thank you. There you go. Okay.
Well, Tevya, I have a question about the equipment that you use. Where are all the art? Where did you keep all of the original interview? Is it with the Historical Society?
It's not. We should have, but it's not. I think we kept it with our registered agent or with Dr. Schultz, who actually conducted the interviews. but we did not keep it with the Historical Society. That was something that we discussed, but we never moved forward with that. And we were thinking about actually putting it in the archives in the Cape Charles Library, but we haven't moved forward in doing that. I think they have a copy of the booklet. I'm pretty sure they do, but of the original interviews, I don't believe they do at this time. That's actually something I need to follow up on.
Yeah, I think that we do need to resolve that issue, because we'd like for the material to be available to future researchers and make it really a good document for people, as a original document that people can use later on.
So Tevya, what medium are the interviews stored on? Are they on videotape or?
They're actually on a CD.
They're on
They're on
CDs?
they're on CDs, and they're in a Word document, and the interviews are printed, and then our final product had to be a booklet, a colored booklet that pretty much told the history. And I don't know if either of you were able to go to the Cape Charles Museum. It also became a exhibit at the Cape Charles Museum that's supposed to be a traveling exhibit. And we're trying to move forward now to get funding from the Virginia Humanities. They've said that they can pretty much, not promise, but feels that we would have a strong case to get funding to have it a traveling exhibit on the Eastern Shore. What was the end
I have
result?
seen those exhibit, and they are excellent exhibits, and we'd like for this material to be housed permanently, really somewhere where it's accessible to the public. And perhaps we're really seeing that the museum and the Historical Society would be the appropriate places to hold this. But I wonder if they are really equipped to handle this on a long-term basis.
The Historical Society, you mean, or the museum?
I think they are mingled together, the Historical Society and the Cape Charles Museum. They're two
Okay.
separate entities, but they work closely hand in hand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be able to attend every meeting, but I wanted to make an offer to you. I've been doing family history, genealogy research for going on 27 years. And I have access to the National Archives, Library of Congress, Ancestry.com, Family Search for the Latter-day Saints, Virginia State Archives, and also have subscriptions to 5 newspaper archives that go back to the 1700s. I can do a lot of research if you give me some specifics of what you're looking for, like names of people, or a facility like you were talking about. And I'd be willing to do a lot of searches for you and provide newspaper clippings or anything else you may want as support, and maybe a little help to you as you go through your work. So I'd like to make that offer for you, and Medi knows how to get in touch with me.
Right. Thank you very much, Chuck. Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Huber.
You bet.
Tevya,
Well-
I have a question. I got the impression, and I guess I'd like your take on it, that when the Rosenwald School is finally restored to the current plans that your group is going forward, I thought that there was part of the plan was to have a research room or a historical room to keep some history. Is that true?
Well, I wouldn't call it a research room. I can tell you that we have been solicited by a local group to do that, but that has never been voted on by the board. But we were asked to do that. What the board said that we would do, we would have, how can I put this? We would have a room that's dedicated specifically to the Rosenwald School history, with artifacts with, you know, maybe newspaper clippings, maybe some, you know, things that students have given us on loan that we would have. Again, a group came to us asking, well, could that room actually be something that was rotated with African American history? Again, that's a good idea, but it's not something that we have finalized at this point.
Thank you.
Mhm.
It seems
And good
me
to see
we-
you. I haven't seen you in a while, Ms. Joan. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Good to see you.
Hey, Tom, welcome to the meeting.
Thank you.
I have
So
another.
anyway, I think what we do need to set up the structure for all this information. So we do need to make a decision about how to store this information for future use. And I'd very much would like to have a template of that agreement, because I think that will set us up in the future also.
I have another question for Tevya about the interview itself, and this may be repetitious, but uh, how structured was the interview that the students were expected to follow? That is, were there specific questions that they were supposed to ask, or how much freedom did they have in the interview to kind of go where they wanted?
The questions were very specific. Everyone had the same questions. If a participant veered off of the question, that was totally fine, but everyone had the same question. If you heard or either seen the interview, a lot of them talked about things that we didn't ask, and that was wonderful. But there were structured questions.
Would you be willing to share that set of questions with our committee?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
That might be helpful.
Mm. So I think that there is a subcommittee working on the template for the interview, and I think that we are going to make a recommendation, and we'll set up a training, sort of an informal training for the interviewers, so that we can uniformly get the information that we want to focus on during the interview. But at the same time, be open to any possible new information that might be of interest that is not identified.
I would want to add one thing. One thing that we made sure that we did was we kept, and not that we had to, but we thought it was important. We really tried to keep the lines of communication between the board and the town open, to let them know what we were doing. One, who we were, and I know they know who the Rotary is, so that's not an issue. But we wanted them to know what we're doing. We didn't want them to hear rumors, you know, in town. And we all know how they go, but we wanted to make sure that they were hearing from us the work that we were doing. And I hopefully we did a good job of that. We would speak at town council meetings or send a letter to the town council or to the mayor at the time, or either to Tom Bonadeno at the time. But I think that's important. I'm sure you all do that now, and I'm sure you probably have members on town council on the Rotary. But that was something important that we thought really made the project a success, and overall the Rosenwall initiative as something that was seen as a positive organization in the town's eyes.
Yeah, we do have the reputation of the Rotary going for us, and many members already have relationships with many of these community organizations that facilitates our work a little bit, but it seems like the work really is going to be complex and going to take some time to complete, or may not. Maybe it's really an ongoing project for many years to come.
have another question. How do you, what is your strategy to reaching out to the community? What is your strategy in getting people not only people to have the interviews, but people to embrace what you're trying to do? And I say that because me being from home, and I can say being from home, being from the shore, and not knowing the history, and now, you know, to all of a sudden, oh, you know, Diggin Godwin has written this book, excellent book. And for those who may not have read it, and now they see that there is a history, that the history that should have been told all the time is now trying to be told. How are you going to curb the suspicion of those in the community on why you're doing that? The suspicion of those who are African American, they'll say, okay, hold up, what's this about? And that's what it's going to be. And then the suspicion of others who are saying, why is this important now?
Tevya, I'm
Go
not
ahead.
sure. I'm not sure if that's going to be as big a deal as you might think. There's a lot of people in town here aren't from here now. There's a lot of retirees like ourselves, and they're interested in hearing this history. I know I am. I'm originally from Baltimore. I'm very much into history, and I do a lot of digging myself. And I've found in talking to people in town here, a lot of them aren't from here. And I think this would be very interesting to a lot of people. I have talked to several African Americans in town. And again, this town is very well mixed today. A good thing. That's really a good thing. I really think people are going to like what they're seeing and hearing.
Chuck, let me hold you up on that. What you said about the come here's is true, but by nature we are suspicious, and Black people. And I don't know what Black people you've been talking to, but if all of a sudden I see something like this, it's like, what's up now?
I understand.
And let me tell you, when the Rosa Wall initiative started, about the time I arrived here, I said, suddenly, what is this all about? And what's the hidden agenda? So we have to be careful, or just be proactive, that we make it clear that we're doing something that's very positive, much like the work that Tom and Mehdi have done in presenting their recent work product. So
well, how about talking to Jim and getting something in the Eastern Post about it? Eastern Shore Post.
I think we do need to study all these reactions and need to respect the reactions of many people, and then plan a strategy that is not challenging or that is not confrontational, so that we can deal with these hidden issues and attitudes, because that's one of the goal of the project, to uncover the hidden or repressed attitudes that are the legacy of the Jim Crow era. And
may I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have found, and what we are trying to do, and whether we've done a good job or not, but as an African American person, that starts coming, that helps when it comes from someone I already trust, right? So in the paper is fine. That is a good resource. But if I am hearing this from my church community, so if Diggin Godwin goes back to Fairview, to Mount Sinai, and says, hey guys, we're doing this project, and at African Baptist in Sheridan, or at First Baptist with Pastor Sessoms, who's on our board, or Bishop Davis, who was on town council. If you get people who are prominent in the African American community to say, this is what we're doing, I know about it, I'm on board with it, that is where you kind of break down some of those. Oh, okay, well, okay, I see. And there still may be some who says, well, I'll wait and see. And you're always going to have those, but you have to start there. And an article in the paper is fine, and posting on Facebook is fine. But the trust comes when you have someone, it's like anybody, any community. The trust comes when you go to people who are already trusted in that community, and they speak about it. And for such a large undertaking that this is, and it's exciting and it's wonderful that it's happening, but that groundwork, and I don't know who it was. I think it was Mr. Who just spoke. Let me see.
Payne?
I think it was Mr. Payne.
Oh, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bill,
I totally.
Yeah, it's always Bill. There's never a Mr. Payne. Bill.
Okay, that's going to be hard, but okay. But I think he's exactly right. It has to come. It's going to be some that will ask questions about it. Dick and Godwin, do you agree, or what do you think?
Yes, and also there's one term that sticks out to me is ownership. What do we own? Do we really own this building? Do we own the concept? Do we want to own it? And I guess it goes back to my history as living in Cape Charles. What do I own? Is all of this mine as well as it is anybody else? And that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I do see that the Black community need to be involved in the project, and that they ought to have some ownership of their stories, and would they like to tell it in the way that they wanted to tell it. Because we are telling the history of the Black community, and it really should come from them as to how they want to tell it.
I certainly agree that, what Tevya said as well regarding our community laying the groundwork. I've spoken with several individuals already, and they're individuals that I respect and who respect me, and they understand the purpose of these activities and what we're working to accomplish. So I would certainly agree that when they understand that it's a genuine and it's beneficial to all, that they would embrace it. And so far, the individuals I've spoken with certainly have embraced it. But I think it would be premature to put it in the newspaper at this point or on Facebook at this point. I think there's a time when that would be right after the groundwork has been laid properly around the town and around the communities.
Yeah. So it looks to me like we do need to do our homework first before we publicize this outside of our community.
I agree, yes.
So I think that's a very important insight that we have acquired today by talking with Tevya. And thank you very much.
Yes,
Thank you for
absolutely.
having me. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, we appreciate it.
Yeah,
Your
thanks for being with
insights
us.
are very, yes.
And we're quite
So
proud of you.
So
Tevya.
Tevya, I'd
Thank
like
you, Dick and Godwin.
Yes.
Now, I
think
do want to
that
ask.
I'd like Tevya to send us the agreement, the legal agreement, and we can start with that. And and the interview questions that you formulated, so we can begin to formulate our own questions.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, all right.
Tevya, would it be okay if I reach out to you to see how we perhaps connected by family?
Please do. I'm gonna put my phone number in the chat.
Very good.
By the way, Pastor Sessoms and I were classmates in high school.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
How cool.
Yes.
Okay, I just sent my phone number.
Thank you.
Tavi, it sounded like you were getting ready to say something earlier that you were going to add. You might have forgotten by now.
I have.
what it
I'm
was.
sorry.
It's all right.
I don't remember.
Now, what do we want to do about the equipment? We thought that we would just use our own smartphones. Would that work?
iPhones work. I don't know about the others.
When I talked to Linda Schultz, she said that they purchased a high quality home Sony video camera, which they no longer have. She bought it, they used it, and then when everything was over, I think she said that she ended up giving it to a nephew who was into type of work that he could use a video camera. But she said it's also very, very important to get the highest quality audio device, that recorder that we can.
I agree.
Makes sense. Yes.
I can tell you that there's a group called APVA. And I can't even think of what it stands for. But they have a kind of a committee or a subcommittee that talks about Rosenwald schools, and they gave guidelines on how to conduct oral history projects. And I can tell you, after we didn't see that until after we did ours, and there were several things that we, dealing with equipment, could have did better. I don't know if I can get my hands on it, but I would try. And they really had some good guidelines on what to do and what not to do, especially when it came to equipment. And I think we got by with what we had, but it certainly wasn't the best. And I don't think we have to go out and get a professional, but it certainly wasn't the best that they recommended. And so if I can find that guidance, I will provide it to you all. And it wasn't expensive. They just suggested we did things a little bit different.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yes.
That would be very helpful, yeah.
But
Tevya.
smartphones supposedly have excellent cameras and video and audio recordings too. They really are very good.
And I just remembered one thing. What we learned later also was that through the Library of Virginia, they provide, you can rent, or they would loan you the equipment. And of course, we didn't know that then. But what happens is we would go to the Cape Charles Library, and we would send a request to the Library of Virginia, and they send that equipment to the various local libraries. And again, we figured that out after the fact. But and hopefully they would still be doing that during COVID. I'm not sure, but that was also an option. And I thought it was a great option.
Well, I thank you very much for that information. I think we can follow up on that too.
Tevya, APVA is the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiquities, and it's now called Preservation Virginia.
That's who I was talking about.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you put all of this in the chat so we have the information?
Sure.
And who is the contact? We can request the audio equipment through the library, just like you are requesting books, Tevya. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am. I don't think it probably wouldn't be the same link or the same, that's kind of general with the books, but it was, I would look for archives, I would look for oral histories. It was something around that nature that you could have that request, and they would come to various libraries.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Tevya, I would like to mention to you that this ad hoc committee, I have known them for a while, and I think we couldn't get a better committee to work with at this point. We'll probably have to get rid of one or two of us later on, but now they've done they're about the best you can get right now. And there's a bit of history about that surround my book. You had me to go someplace and take your place. You were busy. And so I ended up in the theater, supposedly speaking in your behalf. And that's when it all began. And I met Medi. And that was probably one of the beginnings of my writing a book. I just wanted to let you know what we in the right place at the right time. Things
Wow,
happen.
I would say that's a divine appointment. You're right. I remember that. That's divine appointment.
I think there's a lot
You
of
call it divine, huh? Okay.
I think
I'll
we
accept
are
the
coming
divine
at
appointment.
the right point in history in terms of doing this project, because there's a lot of interest being generated about this type of oral histories.
I think they call
I
that
agree.
serendipity.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that we are, I mean, I have canceled the Thursday meeting of the Invisible History Committee because we have this meeting. And then I think I'd like to suggest that the next meeting will be on the weekend, on the Tuesday before the assembly meeting, after the Rotary meeting again. So shall we make that as a standing committee meeting of the Invisible History?
Tuesday before the assembly.
Did
So
you,
the Tuesday, the
I
second
thought it was the
Tuesday, therefore,
Thursday. I thought it was the Thursday before the assembly.
right? But since we have
Right, you
canceled the
canceled,
Thursday meeting,
yes, you did
and we
cancel
just
that
had this
coming.
today. So the next meeting would be on the second Tuesday after the Rotary meeting, which is the Tuesday before our assembly meeting.
So you're changing it from Thursday to Tuesday.
Yeah, for the Invisible List, for the full committee meeting.
Okay, so you should send that out in a notice.
Yeah, right.
Because I think you had said previously it was the Thursday before.
Yeah. But then the interview committee, subcommittee will be meeting separately.
Right, our next meeting is on the 21st.
Right, yeah. Mhm. Okay.
Miss Medi, can I also extend the invitation?
We can't hear you, Tevya.
Oh, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would also like to extend an invitation for someone or maybe a couple of you to come to our Rosenwald Initiative board meeting to talk about this project when you're ready to. I think in a lot of ways our work overlaps, like you said, and I would like for you all to present what you're doing to the board. And even if you don't have everything, have the full scope yet, just to give them an idea of what it is and the fact that we could probably work together. I think that would be great. We are meeting next on the 22nd, which may be too soon. It's next, I think it's that next Monday, I believe, or either next Monday or Tuesday. And then we'll have another meeting in May. I don't have that date yet. With virtual, we really don't have a standing meeting. We just make sure that we meet once a month. But just to extend that invitation to one of you.
I think that would be welcome, yes. We certainly would be happy to collaborate and to attend that meeting.
Wonderful. Let's plan on May. Let's
Yeah,
look at
right.
the May meeting, and I will send you an email to let you know when that date will be.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Now, if we have, is there any other thing that we need to address today? Diane,
just an administrative item. This was recorded and I will send this meeting to everyone.
Very good, thank you. And I will also summarize what we talk about and send it to all the committee members.
And again, thank you so much, Tevya, for your input. It's been tremendously informative, and I'm sure it'll be invaluable as we move forward.
Absolutely. Very insightful.
And Diane, the next committee meeting of the interview committee would be
April the 21st.
Wednesday, right?
Well, I don't remember the day of the week, but it's April the 21st.
Yeah, all right.
Let's see,
Very
that
good.
is a Wednesday, yes.
Mhm.
And we'll send out a notice as a reminder to everybody.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
So if nobody else has something to bring up, we can end the meeting. And thank you very much, Tevya, for attending this meeting. You have been very helpful.
Bill is waving his hand, but he's mute, so we can't hear him.
Thank you all.
But thank you very much.
Yeah, this
Thank
was
you.
good. Thank
Just
you
saying
very
goodbye.
much, Tevya. Oh. All right. Thank you,
Bye.
Tevya.
Thank you.
Bye.